So, Jon, we've done the top tips, and they're wonderful and informative, and I've loved sharing them. But I've also actually been sent some really great questions from students. If we could cover some of those?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first one, love it. Will I get into trouble if I use AI to do my homework for me? Really? That needs to be answered? Okay. I get a lot of questions these days around things like ChatGPT, right? And that's a new bot, and it's a highly sophisticated ML, machine learning stroke AI, artificial intelligence. I'm still on the fence about it being called artificial intelligence. I don't think we're there yet, but that's just a purist thing. Will you get into trouble? Well, I highly think you would. Yes. All right. An interesting story from last week is that a number of students at a university in Australia submitted thesis and essays, all generated via ChatGPT. And a teacher got quite suspicious, a professor. They pulled them in. It transpires, yes, they had used. The university has threatened for everybody to go back to good old-fashioned handwritten essays. So I say use this wisely, right? The challenge here, and this is all personal, so please, I'm answering this question as a personal parent to a number of children in my life, not as the CISO for the BBC. You need to earn things in life. You're not entitled to them, right? So if you're going to go and use a bot to generate your homework and your outputs, that's not you learning. There's nothing original around that. So you haven't earned the marks. You haven't earned the right to move through your school career. So I would say, yes, you will get into trouble. Don't do it. Be original. Original thinkers these days are far more rare than somebody utilizing a bot to do their homework. Also, if you get caught, I don't know where that's going to go.
Speaking as a teacher myself, teachers don't set you 500 words for homework on the English Civil War because they themselves don't know about the English Civil War. It's not for them to find out an answer. Why? The reason they're giving you that homework is because they're getting you to practice and learn research skills and writing skills.
Yep.
That will be tested in your exams. And it's practice of those things. And I do think that the skill of asking artificial intelligence the right questions to give the right answers is a skill that's going to be important in the future. And if you can do that well to cheat in inverted commas on your homework, you're developing a skill that will be useful in the future. But those other skills about being able to do research, being able to find out what's important, look for good sources, condense that all into a short, punchy piece of writing, is something that's also very, very important. Agreed. Out there in the professional world, and will be assessed during your exams. That's why your teachers are giving you the homework, and getting a chatbot to do it for you just won't help you in the medium and long term. And the whole, but it's an interesting question, isn't it?
It is. And the whole ChatGPT conversation is a big one we're having behind the scenes as an industry, because it does put up some interesting social questions. The next one, should the internet have a censor? Who should it be? Ooh, that's a toughie. Me personally, do I believe the internet should have a censor? It's just not possible. Do I believe we should have a censor? No, I think we should be responsible adults. I mean, that's an idealistic statement, of course. We cannot interrupt, we cannot disturb the notion of free speech. But you are, again, and I talk about this a lot, down to social responsibility, you are responsible for what you choose to consume as an adult. As a young adult, as a mature adult, you consume the content that you read on the internet, and how you choose to consume that and what you do with that is your responsibility. No one should be censoring your life. That's my personal observation on that one. Next one is, what should I do if I see something wrong on the internet or get a message that doesn't look right? Tough one. It depends on what you're doing at the time. If you're in a chat room, I'd say get out of the chat room and quickly. But if something doesn't look right, trust your instincts, right? And it depends on what's going on at the moment. I'd like to hope that you have a measure of adult safety around you. In other words, if it doesn't look right, you can go and speak to your parents and say, Mom, Dad, what do I do with this? Right? You're not alone. There are so many resources out there to support you. I don't have them to hand, but they are there. If you do see something on the internet that your instincts just don't vibe with, trust your instincts. Step back from it, shut it down, do not consume it. Don't click on links Don't open video files. Don't go there. Just step back from the situation, go and speak to an adult, see what your options are. That's the most sage counsel I can offer you on that one.
I would just add to that if, I don't know, for whatever reason, the parent or guardian that you live with, you didn't want to talk to them, find somebody else who's an adult, a trusted teacher, your form teacher, someone at school, but make sure you're talking to an adult, and they will help you out of any pickle that you might be in. But please don't suffer in silence, or click on or start talking to someone that you just don't think is
trustworthy,
is a right person. You're almost certainly right.
Thank you. Next one. Should companies do everything they can to keep our data safe, or keep us safe on the internet, and why don't they? Oh, this is a good one and a tricky one as well. So should companies do everything they can to keep our data safe? Now, companies have a duty of care to your data. We're processing data.
Sorry, for students, what does duty of care mean?
If there is a company that is pulling in data from you as a public sector, or using your data, they have a responsibility to keep that data safe. Much like teachers have a duty of care to their students to make sure their emotional, mental, and health is all taken care of in their education, companies using your data have that same duty of care to your data. So they will do everything within their measure to keep that safe. To answer that question, should companies do everything they can to keep our data safe? The answer for me is yes, they should. And most companies do. Contrary to what you see out there and hear out there, most companies do. We have the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR as it's called. They are pushing companies into the space to make sure that your data is processed responsibly and also secured responsibly. The thing is, it's a challenge, right? It's really difficult to do when you've got so many attackers out there who want that data. So I believe genuinely that most companies do the best they can with what they have to take care of that data. So to answer the first question, yes, I believe they should do. And to keep us safe on the internet. So this is one where I sometimes get into trouble. There is, again, an extension of that duty of care. Yes, the way in which data is presented. So I know that a lot of people go into, should social media platforms be regulated, things like that. Personally, yes, I do. I believe that things like the hate speech, the awful images that people are subjected to on normal media platforms, like, no, I'm not going to mention them. They should, and they do, again. But also, and this is key, you have a responsibility. Nobody can live your life for you. You have to take a measure of your own personal responsibility with the way you consume data, view data, and use it. All right. So there's only ever going to be a certain amount that these companies will do. The rest is also up to you. Last question, and it's a good one. Can what I do on social media now affect me in my adult life? I think we touched on this earlier. Yes, absolutely. And to be clear as well, it's not just social media. If you are using Telegram, Signal, Discourse, any of these chat applications, and you're talking and you think that you are safe, in a sense you are, because the data is encrypted, but you're not safe from the people you claim to trust. So you can have friends who are not really your friends take screenshots of your conversations and share that in public forums. And I know of a promising young law student who took that to heart. He had a number of conversations that were not great, just not something you wanted out in the public domain.
So is this the sort of thing that he thought was like banter between a closed group of people that he would be horrified if it got out, and it did.
It did.
Yeah.
Because somebody took screenshots of that conversation and sent them off to the company that was, due to employ him in the summer. He lost the job.
All right. I can think of a couple of personal friends who have got all the way through a job application process with a company, have had their social media lives looked at, and have subsequently not been offered jobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, in very succinct terms, yes, what you put on social media can and will be used to review you as an individual for potential jobs. Not all companies do it, but many now do.
Yeah, sure.
And it's not just that, right? It's just, as I say, the chat channels that you have, people can scrape your data and use that against you as well. So be very careful. Nothing is as private as you believe it is.
Even with things like Snapchats that allegedly last seconds.
Screenshots.
It takes less than a second to screenshot, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
So don't take that for granted either. And those are all the questions. So thank you very much for those. They're great.
That concludes our chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and visit us at Bletchley Park. I think it's really, really interesting. I think you probably agree, we don't have all the answers to a lot of these questions. And time and time again, the thing comes back is that students, ultimately, they need to take responsibility for their actions, and they need to think about the things they do, the things they share, the things they use, the way settings are. As much as their parents and adults around them are there to help them, there is a responsibility themselves to look at these things and look at the big picture. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming to Bletchley Park.
Jon, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. First of all, for the privilege of being here. Bletchley Park is just phenomenal in its history. And it's been an honor to be on this. It really has. To your point about, yes, personal responsibility, it is an absolute imperative these days. As much as we would love others to take responsibility for what happens out there, the internet, the social media platforms, the tech giants, they will do so within, as I said, the measure that they can. But the rest is up to us as individuals. And we have to become more savvy with how we use our data, who we allow to use our data, and to just take a measure of responsibility for how we interact with the technologies that we now have on our day-to-day lives. So yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.